Guys, have you ever been looking for a on-motorcycle camera and you didn't know which one to pick? We've got really cool options like the Innovv K5, we all know about the GoPro, and I'm sure there are tons of other options out there. Well, today I'm going to be comparing the Innovv K5 and the GoPro for on-bike use, as in attached to your motorcycle, kind of like a dash cam in a car. We're going to find out which one is best for that user case. Okay guys, so before we get started, let's talk about pricing and camera specific stuff. The Innovv that we're going to be testing is the K5 model, and it comes in at $458. That's going to include a 4K front camera, a 1080p rear camera, the internal measuring unit, a microphone, like all types of stuff come into that in the little package. And the GoPro we're going to be testing the Innovv against is the Hero 8, which comes in at a pretty affordable price tag of like $250, which is pretty surprising. So with the Innovv, it is far more expensive, but you're going to get a lot more for that. Now, granted, I guess I could have built a like GoPro style version to test the Innovv, but we ain't going through all that for this testing. So it's going to be a $250 GoPro versus a $400 and something Innovv K5 kit. Alright guys, so jumping in first, let's talk about image quality. Now, in this regard, I'm going to honestly give my preference to the GoPro. I feel like it looks more natural, and I actually like watching the GoPro footage more. The Innovv footage kind of looks grainy and kind of over-sharpened, as you guys can see in this side-by-side comparison. Also, the GoPro has a slightly wider field of view. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily a good or a bad thing, but I think both cameras would do a great job at what they need to do. So in a dash cam situation, you want to just have a camera going and grab footage of whatever ends up happening. And both of their field of views is going to be totally fine for that. The GoPro's is just going to be slightly wider as compared to the Innovv. Alright guys, next up let's talk about convenience. This is the how easy is it to use the actual product. Now, something you guys got to keep in mind is if you're going to be using a dash cam, convenience is super big deal, because the harder it is and the less convenient it is to get your camera on and going, the less you're going to use it. So convenience wise, because of the setup process, and we'll get into setups later on, I got to give Innovv the huge win in the convenience department. You don't have to do anything. It automatically turns on, it automatically records, and it automatically saves. With a GoPro, you have to remember to go to your bike every time you turn it on, start your GoPro in the front. If you're going to have a rear GoPro, start your GoPro in the rear. That is not convenient at all. So in that regard, the Innovv is a far more convenient camera than the GoPro is. Alright guys, so speaking of install process, let's talk about the install process of these two cameras. Now, I gotta be honest, the Innovv has a gross install process if you want to do it correctly. If you don't want wires hanging all over your motorcycle and look like trash, it is going to be a few hours worth of work, and that's totally dependent on your motorcycle. So we installed it on my MT10 and we installed it on Luke's Monster. Both of those processes, to hide all the wires, get them tunked out of the gas tanks and stuff like that, you're talking about a 3 to 4 hour job to do it correctly. Whereas technically the GoPro's install process is get a sticky mount or a clamp mount, clamp it onto your motorcycle, you're done. So as far as that goes, install process, GoPro wins hands down. But if you want the GoPro to work just like the Innovv, you're going to have to power that GoPro via some way on your motorcycle, whether that be a USB plug or something like that. So be careful if you are doing that. I've seen my buddy Walterific, we'll have a link to his channel down below, but I've seen uses GoPros like that, has one on the front of his bike, has one on the rear, and they've actually melted before. So just do some testing before you attach your GoPros to your motorcycle, because I don't want anybody's GoPros melting or messing with a battery on the bike or anything like that. But general install process, GoPro, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So guys, talking about that wiring your GoPro to your bike thing is actually going to lead us into our next segment, which is battery life. Now, we're going to put aside this whole you're going to wire your GoPro to your bike thing. I personally don't recommend it, but if you want to, power to you. So with the battery life conversation, we're going to pretend that you're going to be using the batteries in the GoPro. Now, this might seem obvious, but battery life-wise, the Innovv wins easily because it's connected to your motorcycle. It doesn't draw a lot of power, and it's always on. As long as your motorcycle is running and charging the battery in your bike, the Innovv is going to be on. Whereas the GoPro, you're going to have to remember to take the batteries out, charge them, and bring them back in. Kind of an easy win for the Innovv because it's not really a fair comparison. But go to that convenience factor. You don't got to worry about charging anything. You just got to get through that install process. So yeah, Innovv wins on the battery life department. All right, guys, next thing up is MotoVlog potential. Now, I know I started the video and told you guys that we're not going to be using these cameras as motovlogging. We're going to be using these cameras as more like a dash cam. But inevitably, I know there are going to be people that ask, can you motovlog with both cameras? Now, the obvious answer is yes. You can definitely motovlog with the GoPro. You'd have to buy the GoPro. You'd have to buy a mic, and then you would have to buy a mic jack, which is all of that stuff is relatively inexpensive. You're probably looking at an additional $80. Now, the cool thing about the Innovv is it actually does come with a microphone, and we'll talk about sound later in the video. So naturally, people are going to think, hey, I can motovlog with this. I do not recommend this at all. I am not a fan of tethering myself to the motorcycle in any way that's not easily removed. With the Innovv, it does come with a microphone. So technically, you could run the microphone from under your seat or wherever you have the Innovv installed, run the microphone up your jacket and into your helmet. But at that point, you and your head is now connected to your motorcycle. If you low side and your bike goes somewhere, there's now a potential of your head following the motorcycle. It's just a super dangerous situation. I'm not going to recommend it. I do not want any of you guys doing that. So the Innovv, technically it could motovlog, but it's not even something I'm going to consider. So in the can it motovlog department, if that can be a category, GoPro wins hands down. The GoPro is what we use every single day when we do our motovlogs. So obviously I'm going to recommend the motovlog setup to the GoPro for sure. All right, guys, next up, let's talk about the ease of seeing the footage, because if you're going through all the effort and the money to buy these cameras to put on your motorcycle, eventually something's going to happen and you're going to want to review the footage. So it's pretty important to know which one is easier. So both cameras have an app where you can view the footage on the camera. So technically I give this a tie, but personally I will inch out the GoPro just a little bit. In our experience, filming something, getting the footage off of the SD card and then putting it on our computer and then editing it, that whole process is far easier on the GoPro side. So on the Innovv side, they actually have the SD card behind a rubberized and sealed door that you have to unscrew to get off. So in one way, that's a good thing because the SD card in the footage is more secure, because on a GoPro, if you wreck in that thing, it could fly off somewhere, hit the ground, SD card eject out, you'll never get your footage. So I do like that the SD card is protected, but that does make it harder to get to the SD card. And if you were ever going to need to like show footage to somebody, you know, maybe an insurance company or something like that, you are going to have a slightly harder time with the Innovv. Also, not that a lot of you guys probably care, but the editing process for the Innovv footage is a little bit more of a pain in the butt than the GoPro footage. It's not as nice to the editing stuff. I don't know how many of you guys care about that, but it's just something to keep in mind. I imagine most of you guys are going to be using this footage to show to an insurance company if you got in a wreck. So at that rate, you should be able to share out the footage through each of the individual apps for the cameras. So technically, we'll give this a tie to both cameras. All right, guys, next up, let's talk about usability. This is where I think that the GoPro is a far more easy to understand and use item. If you're putting it on your motorcycle, you know, the whole situation where you're clamping it to your front handlebars, for instance. If you go to that GoPro and you hit the record button, the camera will start recording. Most of them these days have a little blinking red light so you know it's actually recording. And when you hit the recording button again, the red button will stop flashing, and you know that from the time you hit the record button to the time you hit it again, you're going to have the footage of that area. Now, with the Innovv, it is a totally different style of camera. It's very much a dash cam, and it's always on, always recording. And the way it does that is it records, fills up an SD card, and then everything new, it just starts rewriting that SD card. Kind of like an old VHS tape where you could like record on top of it. It just keeps cycling out information. Now, you have some buttons on the little controller of the Innovv. That is to like capture the footage. That's to capture a photo of what's currently happening. Or it basically archives and saves like a certain amount of time, and that's all dependent on what you set it to in the app. Now, after using the Innovv a little bit, I'm still massively confused at how the button records. When I hit the record button, I honestly don't feel like I don't feel confident that I have that footage. And the fact that I'm still that confused after looking into it and using it, that doesn't do really well. And that's also not a situation you guys want to be in. Imagine if you get rear-ended by somebody and you needed that footage to go to take to your insurance company to make sure, or, you know, to their insurance company or something like that. That's not a time that you want to be like, I'm not sure if I have this footage or not, because that could literally make or break the entire situation, like whether you get your bike replaced or something like that. I just don't feel super confident with the usability of the Innovv, whereas with the GoPro, I know for a fact I'm going to have that footage as long as the GoPro doesn't do some weird stuff like die or something like that. So usability, far easier on the GoPro side just to use the actual camera. All right, guys, next up, let's talk about multi-purpose of the cameras. If we're spending this kind of cash, $460 for the Innovv and then $260 or something like that for the GoPro, depending on which one you get, that's a lot of cash. And if I'm going to buy something and spend that kind of money, I don't want to just get my one thing out of it. I would like for it to be able to do multiple things. So GoPro hands down wins here. When you install that Innovv, it is a dash cam. You can uninstall it, but it is going to be a massive pain in your butt to uninstall it. Trust me, you're not going to do that unless you're uninstalling it out of one motorcycle and putting it into another one of your motorcycles that you just got that you'd rather have a dash cam for. Whereas with the GoPro, if you went ahead and just put all the mounts on your motorcycle, all you have to do is grab your GoPro, click it into a mount, and you're recording. Then, if you want to use it as a motovlogging camera, you pop it off, you pop it on your helmet, boom, you can use it there. If you want to move the GoPro to a different spot of your bike to get a different video or a shot of you shifting or a shot of the tail, you can do all that with the same GoPro. You're not moving the Innovv. You're going to have your front camera, you're going to have your rear camera, that's it. It's never going to move. So you're going to get far more from the GoPro than you would the Innovv as far as, using it for different circumstances and stuff like that. All right, guys, final thing I want to talk about is audio. Now, something I want to be clear with is we already talked about the prices of the two cameras and that the Innovv kit is far more expensive and it actually includes a microphone. Now, the good news is the audio out of the Innovv sounds great. I am super impressed. You guys can hear it for yourself here. As you guys can see, having that microphone underneath the seat, as long as you install it correctly, gives you really good audio of what's going on. Now, the GoPro's not terrible, but, it has all of the wind hitting the GoPro. It has no chance of sounding great as compared to the Innovv. One of the things I wanted to be clear with, audio-wise, Innovv wins, end of story, but for the price of the GoPro, you are able to get good audio out of that. I'll give you guys an example of our first ride helmet that I use for doing my motovlogs. Here's a section of audio of us on the highway riding a motorcycle for a first ride, and check out the audio of the motorcycle. All right, so guys, here's an example of us going 50 miles an hour in traffic, which is pretty regular. So, as you guys can tell, if you spend an extra something like 120 bucks, you can actually get really good audio for your GoPro. You just got to get an adapter and a microphone, put it inside of your helmet, and now suddenly you can get really good audio. But if I'm judging just the GoPro and just the Innovv, I think the Innovv sounds incredibly better. You just guys got to keep that in mind about the GoPro has the ability to get there. You just got to get some extra stuff that you don't have to with the Innovv because it comes in a kit. So audio-wise, Innovv, you're winning that one for sure. Alright guys, so that's the comparison, Innovv K5 versus the GoPro. And the big question is, if I'm going to buy a camera for a dash cam only, what camera am I going to get? And I got to be honest, if I'm going to buy a dash cam, I'm going to buy an Innovv K5. There's no doubt. I don't have to plug it in. I don't have to turn it on. Everything just works, and I never have to think about it. That's what I want in a dash cam. As a content creator here on YouTube, if you come up to me and be like, Chase, here's $460, go buy yourself a camera, bruh, there's no way I'm buying an Innovv K5. I'm buying a GoPro Hero 9, I'm getting ND filters, I'm getting a good microphone, and I'm going to get some mounts, and I can put that GoPro anywhere on my motorcycle and get phenomenal video. And with that amount of money, I can still make a motovlogging setup if I want to just get riding footage with good audio. It depends what you guys want. If you want just a dash cam, the Innovv does a phenomenal job at that. But I love the footage I get out of my GoPro Hero 9, put some ND filters on it. Like, you guys see the footage that we get. I love it. That is probably one of my favorite cameras that we use here in the shop. And that's what I got. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Let me know, are you guys looking for a multi-purpose action camera or are you looking for a dash cam? And what in this video helped you decide which one you need to go with? Guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. I appreciate you guys watching this video and I will see you on the next one. If you guys enjoyed this video, also make sure to hit that like button and my nose won't stop itching. Hit that like button so my nose will stop itching. All right, outro crew. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. You guys know we love you a lot longer. Put OC in your comment, and let me know, does the craziest stuff happen to you guys while you're riding when there's no cameras on? There's something about the universe. It knows that nothing's being recorded. Craziness happens. When you start recording, nothing. Does that happen to you guys? Was that just me? Anyway, see you guys next time. Love you long time. Goodbye. I did that for you, Bo. Not you. Not you, Bo. This Bo.